D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you on a beautiful Monday in Nashville, Tennessee. Let me get this out of the way now for all of you nerds. May the 4th be with you. Nerds.
Oh, give us a break. It's a fun holiday.
It's not a holiday.
Pot
Yes,
meat
it
kettle.
is.
Who said it was a holiday? Tell me. Who said it was a holiday?
That there's any
There's
holidays
no reason
out
to get
there.
angry about it.
Pot
Man.
meat kettle. Me
Yes.
calling all of you nerds. So for all of you nerds out there, may the 4th be with you.
But it's not a holiday.
It is not a
David.
holiday.
Stop it.
It is not a holiday, but shout out to my fellow nerds out there. Although I am not a Star Wars nerd, which may come as a surprise to a lot of you, but I am not.
That's really sad, actually.
What do they
I've seen the
call-
movies.
I feel bad for you.
I've seen the movies.
What do they call people that love, Star Wars? Or is there a
Nerds.
name? No. I thought because you got Trekkies.
In a
Yes.
different-
I don't know what the
Star Trek.
what is the
Trekkies.
Star Wars equivalent of Trekkies?
That's
I
what
don't-
I'm saying.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't-
there isn't.
Never heard one.
You ain't cool then. You gotta have like a
It's just so wide reaching.
no, but Trekkies is so. But and I can
No.
get with that.
Trekkies can't hang with.
No, are you serious? Oh my goodness, you're starting something, Willie. You're starting something just
There's a
because
lot
they
of crossover. Don't you
just
think?
because they have not made 29 movies off of each character doesn't
That's
mean
right.
they can't hang
It-
with
it
Star
is.
Wars.
They have sold out. I love the Star Wars. The first 3 movies from my childhood. I mean, I could hang with just about any nerd in those 3. After that, with each passing trilogy and then prequel,
Subplots
it's
and
a-
all this.
they've gone. It's a little much.
Yeah.
They've gone a little too far. So I've hit the saturation point a long time ago, but I'm all in on May the 4th. There's a
All
great
right.
disturbance in the force. I've got
Oh boy.
Docking Bay 94. I can throw all the
This is what we got to listen to all day, Adam.
Beggars Canyon back home.
Oh wow.
I don't know if I can do this for 3 hours.
Yes, absolutely.
Lofts to deflector shields. I mean, I got it all. I got all the lingo.
The lifesavers.
I
yeah.
actually
It's a trap.
So
it
it's
is
a trap.
I find your lack of faith disturbing. Willie
Yes,
Donick.
there you go.
That's
There you
what
go.
I use.
Oh,
Never
my
tell me the odds.
goodness.
Gunner says, I've not watched a single Star Wars movie and honestly don't know that I've watched a combined 5 minutes
Okay,
of all
fine,
of them.
Fine. Don't be that. That's fine. Don't do that on May the 4th.
Look, I do want to start on something that we don't
But
normally.
if you want to work in, this would be my challenge to people who want to celebrate May the 4th. If
Okay.
you want to duck in a little line in the regular flow of conversation,
Okay.
like Adam just tried to do.
He tried. I thought.
Well, no, it was
succeeded.
good. Successful run.
Yeah, I like it.
yeah.
The Kessel run, 12 parsecs.
Okay.
If you want to flow that in there, I give you a huge DVD salute.
You're getting too deep, Willie.
Yeah.
Stop it. Right over my head.
Right over my bald
You've
head.
never heard of the Millennium Falcon?
Of course.
Yes,
It's
that.
the ship
yes.
that made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs.
Hey, Adam.
Everyone knows this.
Everyone knows
Yeah,
that.
this is
Hey, Adam.
common
Yes,
knowledge.
yes, Derek.
Can we get to
yes.
the
Who shot
person?
first?
I do want to start on something that we don't normally discuss on our program. I do want to start on baseball.
Not Vrabel.
No, not Vrabel. We do get to Vrabel every now and then.
Yes.
I do want to start on baseball. First of all, proud Dennison Big Red Dad,
Yeah.
go.
Willie Donick.
Oh, yeah. The Big Red, it's postseason time now, Division 3. I was up there for senior day.
Okay.
They won the last 2 games of the regular season. They are 37-1.
Ooh.
They have won the last 36.
So,
They
so
are-
who beat him the first game of the season?
A school called Salisbury from North Carolina.
I know about Salisbury.
The
Yeah.
Stakes?
I don't know if that's where the steak was born, but they have a school there.
Yeah.
And they're good.
What about Stan Salisbury?
I don't know.
The quarterback?
I don't
You
know
remember
if-
the quarterback. It was
Stan
Stan. Was it
No,
it was what was his first name?
Sean
No,
Salisbury.
Sean Salisbury.
He
Yeah.
was
Sean
on
Salisbury.
ESPN
Yes.
for a long time.
Exactly.
He's
Sean
been on.
Salisbury.
He's been on our station many times.
Yeah,
Sean
absolutely.
Salisbury. But the conference tournaments this week, and then the NCAA tournament is the next week. They're going to be in position to try to get back to the World Series. So I am certainly wearing out the path between here and Ohio, Granville, Ohio. So I'm excited about that. And one side note, and I did tweet about this, and we've talked about this on the show, but they had senior day And it was pretty cool to see a group of, I don't know, 10 or 11 seniors. I would say 8 to 9 have been there all 4 years together. Maybe a couple others that transferred in after a year or two, but it's a tight-knit group. And as we've discussed a lot, it's sort of a dying thing at the high Division I level. The brotherhood of coming in when you're 18, you're clueless, you're out of high school, you think you're Mr. Everything, and you're like, who are these people? I'm away from home for the first time. And you grow up together.
Yeah.
Right? And these are lifelong buddies, right? They're going to be in each other's weddings. They're going to be coming back to reunions and stuff. And they know each other better than probably anybody outside their families that they know. There is a huge value in that. And I know, what's the line, Adam? I'm not here for the I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money. Right. And that's what it's become. It's free agency every year. And I cannot begrudge anybody who gets dangled $500,000 or whatever some of these guys make to go to 3 different schools, sometimes more. We've seen guys go to 5 different schools. I get it. It's hard to turn that money down. But I'm just saying, you give something up when you do that. And that dawned on me a lot when I saw the seniors there. So that's my soapbox for the day.
We are all members of the Big Red on this
get
program.
on the Big Red bandwagon, baby.
We are on the Big Red bandwagon.
Let's go.
But I do want to start with baseball today, which, as I said, we don't normally do. We have all seen terrible ceremonial first pitches. If you're not driving, close your eyes and see which one comes to mind for you. I'm noticing Willie's Mets hat over there. The one that always comes to mind for me, 50 Cent.
Yeah.
Like 7 or 8 years ago, threw out the first pitch at a Mets game at Citi Field, and he came nowhere close.
Do you think it was intentional?
I think that was intentional.
You don't think so?
No.
I think it was
that bad?
It was
horrible.
bad.
It was horrible.
It was that bad.
It went like hard left.
It was like
Indeed.
he meant to throw it over there, which I think he did.
I can't imagine he did that on purpose. I went back and watched it earlier today. I saw his reaction. That's someone who did not mean to throw the ball hard to the left. But when you're thinking about these terrible first pitches, such as 50 Cent's terrible first pitch, most of the people throwing out these pitches do not rely on their arms for their livelihoods. Unlike Malik Willis. Did you all see Malik Willis's attempt at a ceremonial first pitch on Friday at the Marlins game? It was just a bit high, I would say. What would be your evaluation of Malik Willis's ceremonial first pitch, Willie?
I think Malik did not prepare as well as he should have. It was very disappointing. I can see when you're a non-athlete, you're just a celebrity trying to get the job done, or you lob it in. But like, I have high expectations for a quarterback. Like,
precisely,
you should be able to pump a strike in there. The mistake he made, I have seen this. When you're up on the mound, and that's the other thing you look for is throw from the rubber. Don't get up on that, especially if you're a quarterback. Don't get up on the dirt. Like where the dirt meets the grass. That's cheating. You got to throw you got to touch the rubber. But when you're up high like that, you got to throw it. You got to come down. You got to follow through. He let it go high and it sailed on him. Oh boy, did it ever sail.
Derek, I will say this.
He let it fly.
First of all, have you ever thrown out a ceremonial?
I mean, that's going to be intercepted.
Yes,
that's an interception by the safety.
Oh
right?
yeah, it's sell on you. Yeah. That's hopefully that's not indicative of what we're going to see during the season.
The Dolphins had to be gasping. Whoa!
Exactly.
What did we sign up for?
Therein lies the issue for Dolphins fans.
us.
Because
Oh
look,
my goodness.
for professional athletes, especially those who use their arms for a living, throwing out a first pitch is a no-win proposition. Because I can only imagine what Miami Sports Radio is saying about this. We paid this guy $50 million over 2 years, and he can't even throw a baseball to home plate. And to make matters worse, that same day in St. Louis, Missouri, Vanessa Carlton, making my way downtown, that Vanessa Carlton threw out the first pitch at the Cardinals game. Perfect strike. Lofted it.
By the way, that was impressive. I had not
lofted it in there. Strike.
Yeah. Now she didn't, try to break the radar gun or anything, but
No.
she put it right in there. And by the way, where has she been for a while? That was impressive. She looks good. Like what's she been doing lately? Like that song is
Pitching.
She might have been working on the pitching.
She may
Exactly.
have. She might have been working on the
But like
pitching.
really, that was a really good song. And then what
Yeah.
happened after that? That's been
One hit wonder.
15, 20 years.
She's
right?
had a couple of hits,
She
but
has?
that was her biggest hit.
Exactly.
But what
That
year
was one
Making
hit
My Way
wonder.
Downtown?
Is that 100 miles? Is that the name of
100
the
miles.
song?
Yeah.
1,000 miles. I'm
1,000
sorry,
miles.
1,000 miles. That
He was
song
thinking of
came
Ice
out.
Cube,
Yes,
100
I
miles
was.
and running.
That song came out in February of 2002.
Ooh,
that's
that's a long
talking.
time ago.
That's like Tom Fitzgerald in the
Yes.
Preds era.
Oh, we'll get to
Man.
that at some point in today's show.
Ooh.
We'll get to
Yeah.
that at some point
But-
in today's show.
I thought Malik Willis, I thought he had some experience in baseball. I guess he didn't play. I thought he played baseball in high school or whatnot, but I guess he didn't. His first mistake was, like you said, Willie, getting on that hill or that mound and thinking, one, I can do this. Like, it's not that I can
Yeah.
do it. And then not knowing or forgetting that he was higher than what the catcher is. He sits a little bit
The slope.
higher. Exactly. So he just throws it as if I'm throwing it like you to me, straight line. You can't do that.
In defense to Malik, I did saw on Twitter that Patrick Mahomes, he threw out the ceremonial first pitch for the Kansas City Royals, and he went really high as well. So just some defense of him, and Patrick Mahomes was a pitcher for
Yeah,
baseball. So
yeah.
just some more context.
But it's players, and we have egos, and there's nothing wrong with it. But you get on that mound, you think, especially a quarterback, oh, I can do this. It's instead of just lofting it over there. You ain't got to throw a fastball in. They just want to see you get over the plate.
All I'm saying is, consider the context. Malik Willis signs a huge deal in free agency, right? And what was the one thing we talked about earlier this year when Malik Willis was rumored to be getting a big deal? The Dolphins are taking a risk because Malik Willis performed well in a small sample size. So you're hoping that as a everyday starting quarterback, he can play the way he did in spot duty for the Green Bay Packers. And we know this time of the year, it's slow in the sports calendar. So when a highly paid free agent quarterback gets on the mound, airmails a first pitch, there's very little to gain for Malik Willis to be throwing that first pitch. So I would advise all quarterbacks, don't throw first pitches. Just don't do it. Unless you're 100% certain you're going to nail it right down the middle.
I could have told you how he started the wind up and how he got the front leg.
Oh, now you're doing the video evaluation.
Yeah, it's stiff. It's stiff. The hips are stiff. The hips are stiff.
He just doesn't follow
yeah,
through.
and that in his hips, it's not following through.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's not indicative of what Miami's going to see.
I mean,
he better do some yoga.
Who the hell is Malik Willis going to be throwing to
Yeah,
in
that's
Miami
as
well? But I saw that and I just thought to myself, Malik, you're going to have to talk about this the next time you show up at practice. Because, again, all I'm saying, if 50 Cent throws a terrible first pitch, it doesn't matter. He's a rapper. If an NFL starting quarterback throws a ceremonial first pitch and airmails it, you got problems. So I would just advise all quarterbacks, think twice before agreeing to throw a first pitch at a Major League Baseball game. That's all I'm saying. 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven, as always, by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll take your thoughts on your quote-unquote favorite ceremonial first pitch, the worst of the worst. By favorite, I mean what was the worst one you've ever seen? 615-737-1025. But coming up next, there was some discussion over the weekend at Titans rookie minicamp about the team's receivers in particular. And I'm going to throw a lot of numbers at you, but I'm going to ask Derek Mason to break it down in simpler terms, because there is something about the Titans wide receiver group that must improve this coming season. 615-737-1025. You can join the Nashville Predators tomorrow at BetMGM Sports Lounge for their official 2026 NHL Draft Lottery Watch Party. Admission is free, interactive games and contests, plus appearances from Preds alum Ryan Johansson, Nash, the Preds Energy Team, and more. Also, 1025 The Game will have coverage with Chase McCabe and Max Hers, live from the event starting at 6 o'clock. The doors open at 5. The party starts at 5:30. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. That was Titans offensive coordinator Brian Daboll over the weekend talking about something that the Tennessee Titans struggled with mightily last season, Derek Mason, and that is creating separation. And I've seen a lot of numbers being thrown around recently about how poorly the Titans did in that specific area. From ESPN, for instance, Cam Ward, when targeting receivers last season, had a 6.4 yards per attempt, 32nd in the NFL, a 54% completion percentage, 31st in the NFL, and his receivers dropped the ball 13 times, tied for 30th. Then I heard Bill Barnwell of ESPN say on NFL Live that when teams were pressing Tennessee's receivers last year at the line of scrimmage, Cam Ward only found an open receiver 17% of the time, which was the worst rate in football. So again, I just threw a lot of numbers out there at you. But what I want to know, because you are the resident wide receiver, how can the Titans receivers create more separation this season? What does Brian Daboll have to do? What do the receivers have to do? How can this not be an issue next season?
I mean, listen, it comes down to the player working on his craft in the off season. There are too many videos. There are too many coaches out here. They're paying you too much money to not work on your craft. It's not all about just running, a route. It's setting the individual up, being able to get off the line of scrimmage, knowing knowing the defender in front of you. What does he like to do? Well, when we're on the short side of the field, is he playing press, or do they like to press? If I'm on the wide side of the field, where does he sit? If he sit inside or outside? So first and foremost, it starts with the player. But as I've said plenty of times, and it's no different, they're not teaching them this in college. They never face press coverage in college.
And why is that?
Because the college game is so wide open. You don't have enough good players on the defensive side of the ball to sit there and press. There are only so few teams in the league in college football that feel they can line up and press you. And typically, to me, it was Alabama and Georgia. Those two teams routinely, they had guys that can get up in your face. Texas has some guys in the past as well, but they don't do it a lot. Why? Because this hurry up tempo offense, no huddling, get your offense out there, wide splits. It's hard for you to sit there and press man to man. So when that was brought up about Carnell Lake, and they said, well, we seen him enough. Seen him enough doing what? I mean, the kid's good. I think he's going to be great. But to say that he's face press enough that that he can get off press, that's being disingenuous, because nobody presses basically in college football. And then when you get in the NFL, guys tend to get in your face, and that what typically sort of stunts the growth sometimes of guys, because they're not used to getting off press. Now, bigger guys tend to have, a little bit of an edge because they can use their, they're bigger and they're stronger. Reach. But smaller guys, they don't know how to combine their quickness and their shiftiness to get off the line and not sit there and play with people. Just get off and go. I was taught, man, get up the field as quickly as possible. 1 or 2 moves, you're gone. Because the quarterback doesn't have all that time sitting back there patting the football. So first and foremost, that's where it starts. What you about to say, Willie?
I was going to ask you, was that one of the hardest things? What were the hardest things for you that were different from college to pro when you had to make the adjustment? Is that the hardest thing?
I think that was the hardest thing, because guys were allowed to be extremely physical with you. College, but they had to let go after a while. It was like 5 yards, as long as the guy wasn't in front of you. But in the NFL, back then it didn't matter. They were grabbing and holding it, and that's what I had to get used to. And that's why the second year was much better than my first year, because I went in the lab, I honed in on my skills, knew what they were doing, and just worked on myself. So first, it's going to start with the player. Secondly, this is where the coaching comes in. Coaches are there to put you in the best position to succeed. Nothing else. Put me in the best position to succeed, and then now I do the job. So TD was right. You got to put these guys in motion, bunches. Look at the Rams. Look at some of these other teams, whether it be, New England when they had Tom Brady, San Fran. Watch all their receivers. They're not standing still. They're moving, especially their number one guy, Cooper Kupp or Puka now. They move these guys. Why? Because we don't want to ever get you. We don't want to ever allow the defense to get a beat on you. We're trying to create a mismatch somewhere. So if I just leave you stationary all day, you're doing an injustice to your player, and you're helping out the defense. So when you see a bunch of teams motion and all this other stuff, they're trying to create a matchup, and they want to get off the line of scrimmage as quickly as possible. Now, listen, you can't motion everybody at one time. It's ain't Canadian football. I get that. But to get defenses to back up, you create bunches, you create splits that allow them to do that. You move guys, you move them several times to get the defense off of you. That's the coach's job. But ultimately, it comes to the player. It's on the player to work on your craft, to know how to get off the line of scrimmage.
Matt on our text line says, is separation the problem when the quarterback has to throw the ball early because he's about to get sacked?
Yeah, that contributes to it as well. When your line of scrimmage, when your offensive line isn't, giving you the time necessary to do your job. That's why, and this will forever, ring in my head when Vrabel said that we need to get faster. He wasn't talking about necessarily foot speed. He was talking about, because he specifically said the receivers, he was talking about them getting in and out of their breaks fast, getting to your spot fast, quick, knowing the defense, knowing what you got to do and where you got to go. You got to think about all of this stuff even before the ball is hiked. And then once the ball is hiked, you got to think another thing, because now the defense is moving. If you're sitting there trying to figure out what's going on, what happens? You slow down. And Vrabel knew that, because you got speed on the team, but you're not playing fast mentally.
My question for you is, from what you have seen of Carnell Tate, because I know you watched the film in the lead up to the draft, from what you've seen of Carnell Tate, his strengths as a receiver, how do you think he will perform against press coverage in the NFL?
I think he's going to have to get used to it. I think I'm not sure how he's being quick in college may not necessarily translate to being quick in the NFL, because defenders are different, defenses are different. So I don't know how quick Carnell Tate is. I know once he gets up to speed, he's going, he's moving. But I don't necessarily know how quick he is. Can he get from point A to B quickly? So that's one thing that I want to be looking out for. But everything else, I think his strength is to be able to go up and get the ball. That's what his strength is. His strength is, his superpower is he never drops the football. He in a sense, in that respect, he reminds me of Fitzgerald.
Larry Fitzgerald.
I've very seldom seen that dude drop a football. Very seldom. And it's the same thing with Carnell Tate. Very seldom. He didn't drop none last year. Zero. But even before that, very seldom did you see him get his hands on a football that was catchable and he dropped it.
I believe Pro Football Focus had him with 5 drops in his career at Ohio State and 0 this past season.
That translates. Catching the football.
And the contested catches, which he's also quite good too.
That stuff translates. Now I got to see if he's quick enough to get off the press, because, again, I didn't see it at Ohio State. That's why I'm saying, like, what did they see? Maybe they saw it 2 years ago. But last year, I very seldom, if at all, seen people press the Ohio State receivers. You would be a fool to do that. So that's what he's going to have to work on. And if I'm the defense, if I'm solid, I'm saying press him every time. Every time he gets to the line of scrimmage, I don't care what start and press. Because that's what he's going to have to get used to.
You got all these people telling you what it's going to be like, I'm sure, every rookie receiver in that camp. And, of course, there's more to come in the summer before you really get down to the training camp and it's time to see who's ready to play. And I'm sure the people that are advising these guys are really good.
Mhm.
You know, some people have gotten your, guidance on
Mhm.
what to look for. But how eye-opening is it when you actually get out there and everybody's good? Like everybody is better because like these guys are all used to being like the best guy
Mhm.
on their college team.
It's a different world. It truly is. And it's not even because when guys walk in and they walk into practice first day, it's like rookies against rookies and maybe first year guys. So they're still sort of on that tier of a rookie in a sense. So when you walk in with those guys, it's not as intimidating
Mhm.
because those guys are really on the same level that you are, basically. So it's not as intimidating. But then once the veterans come in, now the ball game changes. And then fast forward to camp, then it changes again.
Mhm.
And then when you first set your feet on an NFL field in real time, that's something like I couldn't prepare. I can't prepare you for that. I can't because you think it's fast, and you thought college was fast, and he was at Ohio State, and that's damn near close to breaking the floor to the NFL or Alabama breaking the floor. And some people say, well, the best Alabama team could have beaten the worst NFL team back in the day. That was a lie because they couldn't have. But even though you've heard how fast the game is, when you get on that field, it's nothing like you've ever experienced. And you have to experience it more than once for you to really get a grasp of, okay, because it changes from the preseason to the regular season.
So you think it's a situation where things are going super, super fast
Yes.
in your head?
Mhm.
So what's the harder part, physical or mental? To be thinking about the physical, man, I don't know if I can separate from this guy. Or is it, man, what's the coverage? Which one is it? Mental or physical more?
It's the mental which diminishes the physical.
Mhm.
Because if once I'm thinking I'm paralyzed mentally, it stunts me physically because I'm thinking about what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm
Right.
like, the defense is moving. That's why I would tell big guys like, man, you 6'2", play like you 6'2", throw people around. But they couldn't. Why? Because they were thinking about thinking about other things. It's like I can't really be who I. That's why really good receivers, whether it's Jamar Chase, Jefferson, these elite receivers. That's why when they finally figure it out, you see their game just elevates. And it's not that they figure it out physically, because they could do it physically. It's just that they figure it out mentally. Like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I know what the defenses are doing. Now I ain't even thinking about it. Now I get to use more of my natural gifts to go out there and not have to worry about it.
615-737-1025 will take your thoughts on Carnell Tate and the Titans wide receivers. It's Brian Daboll's goal this season for those receivers to be able to create more separation. And we will talk more about that at the top of the hour with ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter Turron Davenport. But coming up next, Tennessean columnist Gentry Estes will join the program. He wrote a couple of interesting columns about the Titans over the weekend. We'll talk to him about those. Coming up next, 615-737-1025. It is a Reaction Monday, and Reaction Mondays are brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. D Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025. The game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Gentry Estes, Tennessean columnist. Hello, Gentry. How are you?
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Good to be back with you.
Always a pleasure, Gentry. So you wrote a couple of columns about the local professional football team over the weekend. I want to start with the first one, which had the headline, Tennessee Titans, as ever, keep missing forest for the trees. So set the scene for us in that column. You mentioned the condition of the practice field, the new restrictions in place in the name of quote unquote player safety. Tell us what you saw at rookie minicamp.
Yeah, basically the Titans have 3 grass practice fields outside. One of those fields, the one closest to like the corner of the building, they dug up this offseason because they needed to replace. Basically, it was an irrigation thing. They needed to do something to make the field drain better. So what you do is you got about a foot deep pit, football field size pit, where that field would be because they dug it up and they're having to work underground. It's because of that construction that the Titans themselves, when we showed up to cover, the media showed up to cover rookie minicamp, we were told there were going to be restrictions in place where we could go, different from how it had been in the past because for player safety reasons. Now they're going to keep those restrictions in place, I think, even after the construction, which is a whole other topic. But in any event, I feel like, okay, it's player safety. And then when you're watching practice, the Titans still went on that middle field that was right by the field that had been dug up. And as I'm watching this, first off, none of the draft picks were out there. These were all tryout, undrafted free agent kind of guys. One of the receivers is running a route in the end zone, gets the ball thrown to him, doesn't make the catch, and keeps going into this little mesh construction fence that was on that field that was being constructed. This little construction fence was a hero in the story, guys, because had that not been there, I mean, he got wrapped up in it. He fell down. It took him a minute to get up. But you're talking about a situation where full speed, guys running full speed into like a foot deep pit with, dirt and pipes and all this stuff. And I don't know, on a day where I was being told where I couldn't go, and there were ropes set up to contain where I was, if player safety was an issue for the media, it didn't seem to be one that they were practicing on that field. So I pointed that out. Had no one thought about the fact that you have players running into a construction site.
Gentry, I'm sure there are a lot of Titans fans who hear that reporters may not have as much access, and those fans want to play the world's smallest violin for people like you and others who are out there. Trust me, I've experienced this myself. But tell us how fans are potentially going to be impacted by this.
Yeah, I mean, from the media standpoint, and I think a lot of people, when I put something out on social media, I think everybody took it as me complaining about the media restrictions. That's really not what this was. This was more from the standpoint of, this organization just doesn't always seem to get it. They go out of their way with the media stuff. I mean, we had a whole printout for what we couldn't do that was waiting in the media room. We had ropes set up. They clearly were prepared for this. This was a big deal to rein in the media. They basically want to keep us away from the building. They want to keep us away from the team and at a distance and, look, whatever. But my point was, if you thought to do all that for player safety, why didn't you actually do something to keep the players safe? And I asked, D-Mace, if you were out there running routes and you saw another receiver almost go into a construction zone and it like a mesh construction fence had to basically tackle the guy to keep that from happening, would you run full speed on that same route?
Oh, no. I would have said something very loud and they would have heard me. I've done it before, believe me. So I get what you're saying.
I mean, it's like Carnell Tate was not out there practicing. But, guys, what would have happened if Carnell Tate had been practicing and he got seriously injured over something silly like this?
That wouldn't have been good for the organization, I tell you that. We'll talk with Gentry Estes of Tennessee. Now, also, Gentry, you wrote another article about, the Titans and the best reason for hope in 26. And you talked about their coaching staff. And it's much different, as you explained in their article. It's much different from the coaching staff that was put together before them. What did you what did you find out about this coaching staff, or why do you have so much optimism about this coaching staff compared to the other ones?
Yeah, it's more just the comparison between last year and this year. You know, you get asked a lot, like, why should I expect this team to be better? It seems like I get that question all the time. And, you know, and while I do think they did help themselves player wise at a few key spots, receiver, defensive front, I think they're better, probably better roster wise. To me, the biggest gap between last year and this year is the coaching staff. It's pretty clear, the experience. It's very different from what was the case last year. And it's not necessarily a knock on, you know, Nick Holst, Denard Wilson, guys who didn't have the same kind of experience. But I mean, if you look at what they have now, you've got multiple head coaches on the staff. Brian Daboll, to me, it almost feels like you have two head coaches, one on offense, one on defense. It really does feel as though he would have that kind of authority and presence because he's been a head coach. He's been an offense coordinator now going back 10, 15 years. It's a lot different from what they had with Brian Callahan, a first-time play caller. Then when he loses the play calling duties, the OC gets passed over for it by the QB coach. There's not a lot of experience. So I do feel like I don't think it's a guarantee this team's going to be a lot better, but I don't think it's going to be any worse with these coaches. I feel like this is I feel like there's some adults in the room.
Now, do you think this was done on purpose by Amy and Borgonzi to make sure that the next coaching staff was more experienced from the last?
Well, maybe so. I mean, I'm sure when Robert Saleh sits down for his interview, I'm sure it comes up and say, who would you like to have? Mm-hmm. And I do think this last couple of seasons, it's hard to look at what has been happening with the Titans and feel like this was a well-coached team. They just weren't. I mean, you had a head coach who at the start of last season, there were a couple of times you wondered if he even really knew the rules. And that's the kind of thing that I don't think will happen with a coaching staff that they put together now. And we don't mention, I mean, Gus Bradley's a guy with a lot of experience on the defensive side, but you also have John Fossil back, which I thought that was a very underrated move the Titans were able to pull off this offseason, was convincing him to stay and be a part of this new staff, because that was the one thing last season, as bad as they were and as terrible as that whole season went, that was the first time in a long time that the Titans actually knew how to play special teams. They were good on special teams last season. And I think it shows you what coaching can bring to a unit. And that's, it's encouraging a little bit because I think they do have a much better staff now.
Talking to Gentry Estes from the Tennessean. So, Gentry, one of the things we're going to talk about a little later is learning a new system, right? It's an old adage that gets talked about. I can go back decades where a young quarterback comes in, as you pointed out, the staff fails, and they're like, oh, man, we got to do better for the new quarterback, so let's get him a new coach. Well, the new coach comes in with a new offense. And there have been plenty of quarterbacks that have not been able to get through having to learn 2 or 3 offenses in a short period of time. What do you think would be different about this one?
That's a good question. And I you hear that all the time. I mean, when you look at what the Titans did last season with Cam Ward, they did everything they could to ruin that quarterback. I mean, just everything about that, with the coaching change, the O-line, just everything, not having enough weapons around him. And I feel like they didn't ruin Cam Ward, which I think speaks to the toughness that he showed as a rookie. I think there was some genuine physical toughness, but also mental toughness and how he handled himself. And I think that will help in this transition going to a new offense. I feel like there's a good rapport with him and Brian Daboll already because of the draft stuff. I mean, you heard a lot about that. In terms of a system fit on the field, I mean, we'll see. But I think moving forward, Willie, the question there could be too, if things do go well this year, you're going to struggle to keep that guy. That guy's probably would be in line for a coaching job somewhere else at some point here soon. So, that's what happens when you hire a defensive head coach. You run the risk of having new offensive systems over and over and over. But I do think from the standpoint of this season, getting Cam Ward back to where he should have an honest chance, I think this will help a lot with that.
Just circling back to your sort of broader observations of the vibe you get from, does the top of the organization have it together, the smoothness of how things run. You've been around for a while. You're over there a lot. What kind of feedback do they ask for from the media in terms of, just trying to be a sounding board, look for advice, things that might help a little bit in terms of media relations and PR and all of that?
It's usually not me they're asking. They're usually not real happy with me. There's a lot of what I write that I don't think go real well over there. So usually when they reach out to me, it's a little more pointed. No, I mean, I don't know. I feel like, from a media relations standpoint, they're a lot like any pro football team, I suppose. But I don't really know how to answer that one.
Gentry, I do want to ask you one Predators question, since you are a general columnist and you write about more than just the Tennessee Titans. We've seen a couple of other teams that needed a new GM already hire that new GM. Toronto did it yesterday. New Jersey took a week and a half to move on from Tom Fitzgerald, who, of course, is a candidate for the Predators opening. The Predators announced Barry Trotz's retirement more than 3 months ago. At what point do you think it's fair to ask what's taking so long?
No, I've wondered that too, because I mean, it wasn't one of the reasons cited was to get ahead of it, right? And to get kind of a head start on all this. But I'll tell you this, guys, when the Preds do hire a GM, I'm going to call 20 people around the league.
Yes.
And get their exact opinion and then bring it to them. How about that? That Toronto press conference was good stuff.
Yes, that was must-see
That's
TV.
Toronto for you.
That is Toronto for you. Let me get your opinion on one more Predators-related topic, and this is something that Willie and I have bickered about quite a bit. If Tom Fitzgerald is the hire, and Willie is correct to point out that Tom Fitzgerald has not been a member of the Predators organization for how long, Willie?
24 years.
24 years. However, Tom Fitzgerald was still the first captain in Predators history. And Gentry, I'm in this camp as well. There are a lot of Predators fans who are tired of people with decision-making roles in the organization who have some sort of tie to the organization, even if it was 20 plus years ago. 24 years
ago. Make sure if you didn't
Okay.
catch that the first time.
24 years ago.
We're talking, centuries, 100 years. That's a quarter of a century, basically.
Thank you. Where do you fall on all of that?
I don't think it should be held against him that he's a Preds guy. No. I get the question, and I know a lot of people are kind of worked up about that idea. But to me, there'd be a big difference in that guy versus a Kelty or a Brian Poyle or somebody who has actually been working in the organization. But I get it. It's a little bit like Andrew Brunette coming back, and it's kind of from that same era as a player. But it would be a hire that I think they would say it's a Preds kind of guy, kind of keeping it in the family. Whereas I feel like from the standpoint of actually running the team, the guy's had a lot of experience that has nothing to do with the Preds.
Gentry Estes of the Tennessean has been our guest on D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick. You can read all of his columns, of course, at Tennessean.com. Gentry, as always, a pleasure. We'll catch up soon.
You bet. Take care, guys.
615-737-1025. We will get into the Predators during the 5 o'clock hour because I have some observations as I've been watching the Stanley Cup playoffs. And may we just say for a moment how outstanding those two hockey games were last night for completely different reasons.
Yes.
For completely different reasons.
Can we just put it in a nutshell? Montreal got 9 shots and won.
Yes.
The Avalanche got 9 goals and won.
Indeed.
9 shots in a game 7.
9 shots in game 7 and won.
That's efficiency.
The Avs scored 9 goals. And you know what? They needed most of those 9 because it was a hell of a game.
The Canadiens recorded the fewest shots on goal in a win in NHL postseason history.
That is efficiency.
9 on the road and 1-2-1.
They had 0 in the second period.
Literally
0.
Fantastic stuff.
Hey, there's more.
Yeah.
You keep winning more than one way.
It's about results. It's
Exactly.
about results.
That second round series, by the way, between Montreal and Buffalo, which starts on Wednesday, it's gonna be good
It's gonna
stuff.
be lit.
It's gonna be good stuff. 615-737-1025. We will get back into the Stanley Cup playoffs and the Predators in the 5 o'clock hour. But coming up next, Turron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, will join us. We'll get back into the local professional football team coming up next. 615-737-1025. Speaking of that team, all of our offseason coverage here on 1025 The Game is presented by Tennessee Brewworks. Raise a glass with Tennessee Brewworks, proud partner and official craft beer of the football offseason coverage here on 1025 The Game. D Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. Continuing the Titans conversation, let's go to our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Turron Davenport, who is presented by Bart Durham Injury Law. Hi, TD. How are you?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? How you doing?
We're doing well. Thank you for joining us as always. So earlier, Turron, we played the clip of your question to Brian Daboll over the weekend about Titans receivers and press coverage.
Yeah.
How can Daboll help the team have more success in creating that separation this season?
Yeah, well, I think you heard it in his answer. He talked about using more condensed splits, right, and bunch formation, and that allows the guys to get a little bit of a freer release off the line of scrimmage. So that's something that they'll have to do. Using more motion as well. I think that's something that will give some of the receivers a free release. But, you know, end of the day, your ex-receiver, he's on the ball, so he got to be able to make things happen. And that's where Daboll, you know, he talked about Carnell Tate and what Tate brings to the table as far as being able to beat press covers and seeing him do it at Ohio State.
I want to ask you about one of the rookies, one of the draftees from last week, Nick Singleton. I'm intrigued by him. He is the first Big Ten player with 5,000 plus all-purpose yards and 50 plus touchdowns in a career. Now, to be clear, I am not saying that Nick Singleton is going to be the next Jonathan Taylor. But how do you envision the Titans utilizing him? Could he challenge Tajay Spears for carries in the backfield behind Tony Pollard?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a 3 and at times 4-headed monster with those guys. And you look at Nick Singleton at 55 touchdowns, that's more than Saquon Barkley scored. So, you know, you clearly got a guy that can make things happen. I asked him at the Zoom after he got selected, you know, about the whole idea of still having more that he could unleash also as a receiver. And that's something that he brings to the table. He could have helped in the pass catching game. Obviously not like Jeremiah Love, but he's still a guy that could help there. And I think he is gonna you know, factor in as a guy that will weigh in for snaps and things like that. You know, behind Tony Pollard.
Now, TD, how do you think this linebacker situation will work out? You know, they drafted some guys, brought in some guys. Obviously, they got Barden and Gray coming back from last year. James as well, James Williams Sr. But how do you think this whole linebacker thing work out, having drafted Anthony Hill Jr.?
Yeah, well, he's going to probably slide in as the middle backer. I think his skill set fits that position the best. But one of the things that Gus Bradley said during his presser was that the Will and the Sam and the Mike, they're all essentially the same. It's just whoever's the best communicator ends up being the Mike. And I hear what he's saying, but if you watch Robert Saleh's defense, the Mike typically is not only a communicator, but, you know, from watching film, you see that he's one of your better cover options. And of those three, Hill is the best cover option, but the whole thing is going to be that if he's wearing that green dot, and you saw it with Cedric Gray when he came in a couple years ago, he had the green dot and he wasn't playing fast, you know, because he's processing all this information, and it's tough, right? When you first are there, you're processing, you can't read and react as fast because you're stuck in that reading and processing part of it. So I think, you know, it's going to be all about bringing him along quickly, and that's why I asked Robert Saleh about, you know, how he was able to get Fred Warner there. I asked Gus Bradley about Bobby Wagner, how he was able to get him there quickly. And it's something that they're going to have to take note of because initially he may not play as fast, but you know how it goes. Like at some point it hits, and next thing you know, it's just like he's back at Texas and, you know, blowing receivers up and coming up and filling against the run.
Now, the Titans went out, as you know, Turron. They went out and addressed their secondary with Flood and Alante Taylor and some other guys. How do you think that nickelback situation works out? I know they spoke highly of Harris, but that's going to be a competition.
Yeah, that is going to be a competition. Honestly, I thought that Kevin Winston Jr. was going to factor in and be somebody there, but to go back to what we were saying about playing fast all the time and not having to think as much, that's one of the things that Robert Saleh said he wanted to do with Winston in year 2. And you saw him in that nickel spot. You know, he did have some struggles, get kind of lost in coverage and things like that. So I think when you look at it, end of the day, I think Alontae Taylor should bump back inside the guy they signed, because over the last 2 years, that's primarily where he played. But they want him on the outside. Marcus Harris, he gives you a big body, but you got to remember what Salah has said as far as wanting that Nick Emmanwori type, right? That linebacker and a safety body, right? And so when you look at that, there's not really many guys like that on the roster. You know what I mean? So Marcus Harris is someone that has been brought up by Mike Borgonzi, been brought up by Gus Bradley, is also brought up by Robert Saleh. So as you mentioned, that's a guy that's probably in line. And if I'm him, I'm probably the happiest out of all the Titans after the draft, because they didn't draft any DBs or nickel guys.
Turron Davenport is with us. Turron, we were just talking about with Gentry Estes about early observations of the coaching staff. I'm just curious for you. We did see, in fairness, like I don't think anybody who gets an NFL job doesn't know what they're doing per se, but other than Bones Fossil, there were a lot of questions about, over the last few years, the experience level of a lot of the coaching staff collectively. Do you get a different sense when you look at this staff?
Well, I mean, naturally, because you look at it, they're all tenured. I mean, look at Greg Lewis. He caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl, by the way. The Eagles and Patriots. So he played the game, he walked the walk, and now he's talking the talk. And I think when you look at him as a receiver coach, I saw him in 2016 coaching the Eagles receivers firsthand, and he's a technician and he's a good coach. So you have him, been coaching for a while. You got Carmen Vasillo, been coaching for a while. Tony Oden. Marquand Emmanuel. I mean, there's a lot of experience there. Gus Bradley, we know, has been coaching forever. So I think when you look at the staff, it's definitely much more experienced than what you saw in previous years with Callahan. But, that all sounds good. You can have all the experience in the world, but if you're not applying it and getting results, what does it matter?
Well, I guess that's my follow-up is do you think that will make a difference, a tangible difference over the long haul?
I guess we shall see. I think this, when you look at the staff, like I said, it's definitely tenured and they've seen a lot. So hopefully, for their sake, that approach as far as being able to, dictate as opposed to having the flow dictate to them. Like I hate it when Callahan would say that, because it's just like, you're an offensive guy. You want to tell them what you want to do and do it. Like, you don't have to allow the flow of the game to dictate. If you want to run the ball, run the ball. That's what I loved about Arthur Smith, And I think, when you look at Brian Daboll, he has like that same degree of jerk to him, where it's just like, or stubbornness, where it's like, hey, this is what I want to do this week. We're going to do it. I don't care what you do to stop it.
This is a related question, but it's going to be something we try to drill down on some later in the show. It'll be a theme. We're young quarterback. We've seen it through history, right? You come in a tough situation, team doesn't do well, they change the coach or they change the offense. And a young quarterback has to learn another offense early in his career. Mm-hmm. Why do you think, or tell me what you're seeing on why you think maybe, optimistically, Brian Daboll will be better at teaching this and taking Cam Ward to the next level than many have before, because you see the results. In the past, it can lead to a lot of spin in your wheels.
Yeah, well, you saw what Daboll did in the past with Josh Allen, and you saw Josh Allen become, because coming out, Josh Allen, he was all the traits and everything, but he had some habits that weren't good, but they were able to get that right. And then you look at this past year with Jackson Dart, it really comes down to this, and it's something that Brian Daboll said when I asked him about forming a bond with the quarterback, with Cam. He said, it's all about learning how to look at the game through the eyes of the guy you have playing your quarterback. You want to be able to sit down with him and be on the same page when you're watching film and understand what he's seeing, and then you could correct accordingly. I think that's a really good point. But then you can't not give Cam Ward credit in this situation, because it's all about mindset, right? You saw how disgusting last year was, but he never once wavered as far as wanting to quit or anything like that and having bad spirit. Well, he had bad spirits after the Browns game. We'll keep it 100 on that perspective. But, for the most part, the mindset, right? Hey, my dad got up at 4 a.m. every day to do something, to do his job. Why can't I have that same approach is this job doing something I love? And I think when you look at those things, and you look at what Cam Ward said about, you have to lose to win. He has the right mindset, long story short. And that's what you want in a quarterback, especially when he has to lead you through some choppy waters in the beginning of his tenure.
Turron Davenport is with us. TD, last week we were discussing the Titans over-under win total after the busy part of the offseason. It was still at 6.5 after free agency and the draft. A couple of things. One, odds makers know a lot. They don't know everything. Two, the Titans have won 6 games over the past 2 seasons. But do you think they are being undervalued at all after the changes they made on the roster and coaching staff this offseason?
No, not at all. I think they still have to show. Every year you see teams do all these moves and they're like, oh, championship. And then they go out and play.
The dream team.
And you know what it looks like. Yeah, dream team. Yeah. Championship, DJ, who's your mama? Yeah, that's what you see. And the next thing you know, it ends up, not looking good. So, 6.5 wins, I think that's pretty healthy for them as an over-under. But, disclaimers, I don't want anybody coming after me. Like, don't go up for my prediction. I think they win 6 or 7 games, though.
I do want to ask you, Turron, before we let you go, I want to ask you a philosophical football question. It appears that the Las Vegas Raiders are seriously considering sitting Fernando Mendoza to start his rookie year in favor of Kirk Cousins. I am curious how that will play out, especially after the Titans were unambiguous about Cam Ward being their guy from the moment they drafted him last year. Where do you stand on number one quarterbacks, top draft pick quarterbacks sitting? Where do you stand on that philosophically?
Well, I think philosophically, it's just like everything else, right? Don't paint with a broad stroke. I think it's a case by case situation, right? Like you saw Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, you saw those guys kind of marinate and then come out and play well. But then you've seen other guys, Peyton Manning, he played right away. It was terrible the first year, but then, he became Peyton Manning. So I think it's a case by case.
Did we lose Turron? Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess where did you lose me?
No, you said it was a case by case.
Yes,
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it's case by case. And I pointed out Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love. Those were guys that, played well after marinating for a bit. And you look at Peyton Manning, he had a really bad first year, but he's Peyton Manning, and then it's just really case by case. I firmly believe, though, the only way you get better at something is by doing it. However, again, it depends on the person.
Patrick Mahomes sat for a year.
Yeah, Mahomes sat for a year. There's plenty of guys who sat and played well. There's got some that sat and didn't, and then you got some that played right away. So it's individual situation.
Turron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, has been our guest on D-Mace Vinganadonic. He joins us every Monday, and he is presented by Bart Durham Injury Law. TD, as always, a pleasure. We'll catch up next week.
All right, for sure. Appreciate it. Hey, we got Juan Soto leading off tonight, man. Huasca Brazo Von Star. Let's go Mets.
All right, I'm about to start taking a peek at that. Hey, 2 out of 3. Toronto over the weekend. You got to start somewhere.
World Series.
Hey, man. Like Jesse Jackson said, man, keep hope alive.
It's only May the 4th.
All right, TD. We'll catch up next week.
All right, folks. Take care.
615-737-1025. Let's continue the coaching staff conversation because Gentry Estes, our guest during the first hour, wrote a column about the coaching staff. And I do have a question for all of you out there about the Titans' new coaching staff. We'll discuss that coming up next. 615-737-1025. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home with a $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. I am in charge of the playlist today. On Thursday.
Okay, you guys, we're ramping this up, right?
Yes.
So remind me when it's my turn because I'm already
Tomorrow.
piling some. Tomorrow's mine? Okay.
Well, because Derek did it on
I
Friday.
did it
Okay.
Friday.
I'm doing
All
it
right.
today. You could do it tomorrow.
I love it. I'm ready.
So-
I'm already
Now we're doing
in my
Wednesday.
mind. I already was putting songs together. In my head.
Okay.
Well, I in honor of a concert I am going to on Thursday at Bridgestone Arena, one of my favorite bands called Bring Me the Horizon. They are playing Bridgestone Arena on Thursday. So that's all the music you're hearing today because I'm excited. I'm in the spirit.
What kind
As
of
you
music
just heard
is that?
there. Hard. Metalish.
You like hard, like metal, like screaming?
Yes, I do.
God, I don't picture you like.
I'm full of angst. Haven't you noticed?
Yeah, you are.
I'm angry inside. I'm an elder emo. That's what I called
Mm.
myself.
Oh,
That's why
man.
I was so surprised
Oh.
last week when we were going through the alleged playlist
Yes.
from Diana Rossini to Mike Vrabel, and there was Papa Roach, Last Resort. I'm like, I can't imagine Mike Vrabel listening to this because I can imagine myself listening to it because I did listen to it. By the way, Willie, you'll be pleased to know we're not the only people who pointed out how weird it was that a playlist called Turn in the Page did not feature Bob Seger's Turn in the Page.
Yeah. I'm
Katie
so baffled
Nolan,
by that.
Katie Nolan on her podcast mentioned the same thing. Like, how can you not have Bob Seger turn the page on a playlist called Turn in the Page?
It's a mystery.
It's confounding.
I-
Absolutely confounding.
Big fan of Katie Nolan. I think she's good.
She does a great job. This is, I do want to sneak this question in just because I think it's funny. And again, we will talk Stanley Cup playoffs in the 5 o'clock hour. One texter said, what do y'all think the conversation today would be if the Predators did what the Lightning did and gave up 2 goals on 9 shots in a home game 7? Didn't think either were the goalie's fault, but the fan base would kill UC Saros. I can absolutely guarantee you that the fan base would be skewering UC Saros right now if that happened.
And they were both really weird goals too
Yes,
that
they
went
were.
in. You know, not like one went off of one of the Lightning players, right? And the other one was whacked out of the air on a puck that went off the backboard.
I would not blame Andrei Vasilevsky for either of
No
the goals
way.
they allowed
No
in the
way.
game yesterday. But yes, I can
They
only
have to be-
imagine.
they have to be completely dumbfounded
I
how they
believe-
lost that game.
I believe John Cooper said, we won the game, but not the score. I think that,
Yeah, and that's a tough one. You
or
can't say
something
that.
like that.
I don't know
can't,
if you can say that.
That's paraphrasing. I may not have recited the quote.
But there's only
verbatim.
so much you can do in a game. Could they have done better? Sure, but every game in that series was decided by 1 goal, but that's only the 3rd time ever that's happened. 7 games all decided by 1 goal. How many? 3 overtime games, I think.
I want to say 4.
Maybe 4. And in Game 7, you outshoot a team 25-9.
29 to 9.
29 to
29 to 9.
Sorry.
Yes.
Gosh.
Not about quantity.
That is one
That is
that
true.
is hard to swallow. And now everybody, but this is what they are doing, right? Just like you're saying, this is how a fan base would pile on. Now the narrative, they've lost 4 straight years in the first round. What's going on? I mean, I don't know what else you're supposed to do.
I can't.
A really good team was going to go out in the first round.
Yes, I don't blame the Lightning for what happened yesterday. I mean, play that game 100 times.
Yes.
The Lightning are winning that game 98 out of 100 times. But we will get back into the Stanley Cup playoffs in the 5 o'clock hour. I want to revisit something that we spoke about with Gentry Estes in the first hour because he wrote a column for the Tennessean with the headline, with Tennessee Titans, the best reason for hope in 2026 is the coaching staff. As Gentry writes, quote, in terms of expertise, these Titans have easily the best and deepest coaching staff they've had in my 8 seasons covering the team. This staff basically has 3 head coaches, if not more. With head coach Robert Saleh, Gus Bradley on defense, Brian Daboll on offense, and special teams guru Bones Fossil back for another season, there's no overstating the upgrade of this coaching staff over the previous one. And I understand Gentry's point, especially when you compare this coaching staff to the previous regime. Brian Callahan did not have any experience. Nick Holtz, Denard Wilson, Colt Anderson, that's a blast from the past, special teams coach. It's night and day. But here's my question for the two of you and all of you listening at 615-737-1025. How much optimism about the Titans' new coaching staff is reasonable? I think it's fair and totally, again, to use the term, reasonable to feel confident about the coaching staff, the adults in the room, so to speak. But I'm wondering if, as we prepare for this coming season, if the experience of the coaching staff is going to be overstated at some point. So let me ask you that question. We'll start with Derek. How much optimism about the Titans' new coaching staff would you say is reasonable to have?
I think more than what you had last year.
Well, that's a given.
Staff. Yeah.
That's
so,
a given.
I mean, what would be reasonable? I mean, I think that it's right to, because of what this organization has been through, it's right to have sort of this, wait and see sort of approach, or be a little skeptical about, what this team is going to do based on what has happened in the past. But when you look at this and, look at this coaching staff, I think there's proof of concept. I mean, you have a coordinator who's been a head coach, who has been successful at several stops being a coordinator now. He wasn't as successful. He had a successful season with the Giants, but he doesn't have a head coaching job for a reason, because that team just couldn't, win games when they needed to. So you have proof of concept there. You have Robert Saleh, who has commanded and ran, top defenses. He has, I think the defense he had, that was a Super Bowl defense that he had with San Francisco when they went. I think he was the DC there at that time. And then you have Fossil, you have Gus Bradley, who's been around forever. He has proof of concept. He's had really good defenses. Fossil, I mean, everywhere he's went, he's been excellent at his job. Even when he was in Baltimore, when he was an assistant, he was excellent at what he did. And you see it now. So I think the optimism should be there. Should you just, blindly, follow this? No, because ultimately they got to go out and prove once again, as they had to prove at their last job, that they can command this unit and go out there and win games. But I think you should feel good as a Titan fan, knowing that you have guys in positions that have achieved something on the coaching level. You didn't have that. As good as I believe Bernard Wilson will be, and he was last year, considering, everything that went on, that was his first time being the coordinator. That was Brian Callahan's first time being the head coach. He never called plays. His OC never called plays. So you had a bunch of guys. His special teams guy, first time he's had a special teams, a coordinator job. So you had a bunch of guys running things that really didn't have the experience needed for a young team like the Titans. Now, if this was a veteran team that was winning and all that, then yes, you can probably get away with it. But when you have a team that was depleted of talent, young guys that you depended on, the coaching staff from last year just didn't work.
I just thought of it actually while we were talking with Gentry. And I do wonder how much of this is a philosophical question that you can ask, I think, in any sport. And that is, what difference does a coaching staff make? We know it makes a difference. And we don't know, just because you're experienced doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be better. But based on what we've seen, right? And nobody will ever, when people look back on Brian Callahan, unfortunately for him, there's going to be those moments, right, of indecision, those game management things, which in the grand scheme is just one ingredient of many ingredients that go into being a good coach. But that's what's going to be the label on him. It might keep him from getting another chance someday. So weeding those things out and maybe just having a better feel for how to develop a roster, I'm just wondering what that could mean on the field. Is it worth a win? 2 wins? I don't know.
Yeah, you can go back to, Vrabel's coaching staff. I mean, I think the one name is Dean Pease. He had Dean Pease on his coaching staff. And we saw what happened when Dean Pease left the coaching staff, the defensive coaching staff, and the defense dipped. So having guys like that on your coaching staff, like you said, well, it may not You may not win a bunch of games, or they may not be qualified, but it's good to have someone that you've seen go out there and have success at doing what you have called them or hired them to do. Dean Pease had success at being a coordinator, so he had success here in Nashville. You expect Saleh will have success, at least on the defensive side of the ball, and Dabo on the offensive side of the ball, which should help the wins, period, together. So you have guys, you feel good about guys that I can look over and say, all right, he's sort of been in the foxhole. He understands what it's like, and he's been successful at that. So it's easier to look to my right and my left and behind me, or even in front of me, knowing that the guys around me have had success at doing what I've asked them to do.
Caleb says the bar is pretty low because of the previous staff. So, yeah, it's easy to feel optimistic. WB and Thompson Station says, if you're comparing the coaching staff this year to last, and that is your benchmark, well, of course, you're going to be optimistic. What were the current Titans coaches' combined records as head coaches? Well, I did look this up while Derek was talking, and I'm wondering about this myself. Robert Saleh as head coach of the New York Jets, 20-36. Brian Daboll as a head coach, 20-40-1. Got one tie out of there. Gus Bradley, 14-48 as a head coach, and Bones Fossil was an interim coach for 3 games, I believe, replacing Jeff Fisher, if I'm not mistaken, 0-3. By my very quick math, that is a combined head coaching record of 54 wins, 127 losses, and 1 tie. Does that matter at all?
I mean, if it continues, yeah, it does matter. But again, every situation is different. And we can look back. I mean, I think we have to go back a little ways to sort of get Gus Bradley's and what situation he was in. But you look at Saleh in that franchise, the Jets. No one's doing well at the Jets. I don't think no one's did well with the Jets other than who was the last coach that had some success?
Rex Ryan.
Yeah, Rex Ryan was the last coach that had some success.
Last coach to take them to the playoffs.
Absolutely. So you look at that, and then you look at Daboll and the situation he was in. He did take his team to a playoff.
Yes.
In one season. That's when he had players, when he had the best player in Saquon Barkley. So I think you got to look at everything. Everything isn't equal. This is not apples to apples. I think you look at every situation differently, and you just hope that those things that they learned at those spots will help them here with this job.
I think it's debatable, but I think I would argue that you are better off having been through the experience, even if your record is bad. And you get it's a great debate, because there's a lot of times you're like, oh, those are the retreads, man. Why you get some new blood, get the guy on the rise. But I do think the wisdom that you get, even if you have a run that is unsuccessful, will help you in the future. We talk about this in the context of Tom Fitzgerald, right? And it's a fair question to ask. Hey, how did he do? How would you evaluate his run as the Devils GM? Is that valuable experience that will make him better if he gets the job? Or would you rather have an assistant GM who is supposedly on the rise, who's had some recent success being a part under another GM of a successful franchise? Because Fitzgerald had that in order to get the Devils job to begin with. And so I think all of these guys, Saleh is a great example. His success on the rise as the 49ers DC got him the Jets job. We know what's going on with the Jets, with the quarterback, the whole Jets program, all of that. And then immediately when he goes back to the 49ers, he has great success again. So is he a better coach having gone through the years at the Jets? I think yes, but his record is what it is. And people are going to say, well, his record was, that's some people just go by that.
By the way, Gus Bradley was head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars from 2013 through 2016.
Did he take them to a playoff one year?
He never made the playoffs.
Oh, he wasn't a coach.
They went
there.
4-12, 3-13, 5-11, and then 2-12. He was fired near the end of the 2016 season. Who replaced Gus Bradley as head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars? Doug Marrone.
Yes.
Doug Marrone coached the final
Nashville Ties.
So 615-737-1025 WB and Thompson Station, who asked the question about the coaching record, says, thanks for that number. I think we need to keep that one in mind. That combined record is awful. yes, every situation is different, but there's also something to be said about winning culture, winning attitude, just walking out there and being around winners. Hard to create, easy to lose. And as we all know in Nashville, it's been really difficult to rebuild a winning swagger. It seems as if in the NFL, you need a swagger.
Well, but Brian Callahan was hired as a coach on the rise who had been with a Bengals team that had been winning.
Yeah.
That's how he got the job.
Yes.
But that did not lead to success.
And as we know, in these situations, not just with the Tennessee Titans, but across all sports, most teams tend to overcorrect when they're making hires after making firings. The Tennessee Titans took a swing on a first-time head coach who did not call plays, right? He did not call plays in Cincinnati.
No,
correct.
Yeah.
He did not call plays. He hired an offensive coordinator who had not called plays.
No.
You have a young first-time defensive coordinator as well in Denard Wilson. You had a first-time special teams coach in Colt Anderson. They went full-on fresh blood. Let's give these guys
on
a
the
shot.
rise.
Guys
The
on
young
the rise.
up-and-comers.
And now they're overcorrecting. You better have a ton of experience. It might be bad experience based on your record, but you have experience. And they also hired a lot of bald guys, which we are in support of.
Yes, very much so.
And
A lack of success as head coaches, but to get the head coaching job,
Yes.
you had to have a lot of success in those positions on the way up. And a lot of those guys are in the same positions where they have had a lot of success. Gus Bradley being an example.
615-737-1025. My question to all of you, based on a column from Gentry Estes of the Tennessean, he joined us earlier in the show. How much optimism about the Titans' new coaching staff is reasonable? Of course, you're going to probably feel optimistic because, as we've mentioned, Brian Callahan and his staff. But how much is reasonable? That's the key term. How much optimism is reasonable? 615-737-1025. Boxing fans, 1025 The Game and Team Boxing League has your chance to win tickets to see Nashville Smash take on the Boston Butchers. I do love alliteration. At Municipal Auditorium on Saturday, May 23rd. 16 rounds and 16 fighters each go at it for one round of non-stop action. Text the keyword FIGHT, F-I-G-H-T, to the game text line at 615-737-1025 to enter for your chance to win. D Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025. The game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. I do have a bone to pick with someone who is near and dear to our hearts here on 1025 The Game.
Yes.
Tim Hasselbeck.
And I'm disappointed.
I'm a little upset with Tim Hasselbeck.
I'm just
And
disappointed.
Chase and Joe, if you're listening, the next time you have Tim on, I need you to tell him that we are upset with him. And here's
Yes.
why. He's on NFL Live. He's got a great setup.
Mhm.
And he has a Wyoming helmet because his son, correct, plays for
The Cowboys.
University of
Cowboys.
Wyoming. And I can understand you want to support your son. I get it. But he replaced his NFL Europe helmet with the
Shame.
Wyoming helmet. You've got to make
Shame,
room
shame.
for the NFL Europe helmet, the Berlin Thunder. Come
That's
on,
where it
Tim.
started, man.
Come on, Tim.
You're in the Hall of Fame. Well, I don't know if he's in the Hall of Fame, but,
gotta-
but that's where it started, Tim.
I have a soft spot for NFL Europe the same way I do the original XFL. Like, you've got it. Like, if you played in NFL Europe, you got to be proud. I will take your Berlin Thunder helmet if you don't want it, Tim.
Yeah, move that bat behind you. Replace that with the Berlin Thunder helmet, man. That's
uh,
where it started.
I would just love to hear
Tim?
his decision-making process. in there.
Exactly.
Like, did he consider getting them both in there? Like, get the Wyoming helmet in there.
He had the Ensworth helmet in there. I believe he had 2 Ensworth helmets in there. You don't need
Well,
2.
maybe that's the questionable part.
Exactly.
is,
Like, why
do you
two
need
Ensworth?
two? I mean,
exactly.
I think we got to keep the.
You don't need a pair. You don't
Right.
need a pair of
Just need one.
helmets. Yeah, just one helmet, man. Tim, I
Or
know you're
get them all
listening.
in there.
I
Tim,
know
them
you're
all in there.
listening.
Tim,
Put that helmet back up there.
Okay, it's a request from
Yes.
DVD.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Get the World Football League. What's it called? NFL Europe.
NFL
Football
Europe.
back in there.
Chase,
The World Football League was a whole
Chase-
separate thing.
Joe Dubin, you are responsible for sending this message to Tim Hasselbeck. I was disappointed. I've always appreciated the NFL Europe love in Tim
Exactly.
Hasselbeck's setup.
Nobody does that anymore. Give the NFL Europe love. And Tim he was holding out until now.
Yeah.
Gosh, Tim.
It's a shame.
Disappointed.
It is a shame. Here's the question that we are discussing right now, and you can join us 615-737-1025. How much optimism about the Titans' new coaching staff would you consider reasonable? One texter says those are all helpful numbers, meaning those coaches, Saleh, Daboll, Bradley, and Bones Fossil in an interim capacity, their win-loss records in the NFL. Those are all helpful numbers, but what is their record in games they were actually favored in? I'm sure it's an impossible stat to find, but I bet it's a lot closer to 500, if not above. You are right. That would take a lot of work that, frankly, I'm not willing to put in. But, I mean, look, we mentioned this when the Titans hired Robert Saleh, and I feel like it's important to mention it again. Let me read to you all of the quarterbacks who started games for Robert Saleh with the New York Jets. Zach Wilson, 33 games.
Good.
Mike White, 7 games.
Good.
Not the creator of
Mike
the White
White
Lotus.
looked really good compared to Zach.
Definitely.
Didn't Mike White replace Zach Wilson?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Mike White, 7.
And he was still terrible.
But the bar was low.
The bar was low.
Aaron Rodgers,
Okay.
6.
It ended before it started.
Right.
Your boy Flacco, 5.
It wasn't good.
Former Tennessee Titans practice squad quarterback, Trevor Siemian, 3.
Wow. God.
3. Former Tennessee Titans practice squad quarterback, Tim Boyle.
Wow. 2. Goodness.
Those were Robert Saleh's starting
No wonder he
quarterbacks
got fired.
with the New York Jets.
Tell me a coach that would have survived.
No.
I'm almost surprised he won 20 games with those
Could
quarterbacks.
look at it that way.
Man, that is not good.
But look, I get it. Tennessee Titans fans have not had a lot of reason for optimism. And I acknowledge that this isn't the most important thing, but I watched the news conference last week with Robert Saleh when he said he wasn't having the draftees participate on field at rookie minicamp. I watched Brian Daboll over the weekend. You heard some clips from Daboll. We'll play some more later in the show. And I'm struck by the fact that they look like coaches. They sound like coaches. Now, does that mean that they're going to translate that into winning on the field? Of course not. But I always felt that Brian Callahan was cosplaying as an NFL head coach. Like, up there at the podium, he didn't really look like an NFL head coach. You look at Robert Saleh. If you had never met Robert Saleh in your life, you're not a football fan at all, and he walks in front of you, and he introduces himself to you. Hi, I'm Robert Saleh. It's nice to meet you. What do you think where would your mind go? Like, all right, what does this guy do? I've never seen him before.
Strength and condition coach.
Strength and conditioning coach, football player, pro wrestler, maybe
MMA,
gym teacher. He looks like somebody who
science teacher. No,
he looks
Could be science.
he could be the science teacher.
he looks like a stereotypical coach. So again, I know that if the Titans don't perform well, I'm not going to come out here and say, well, he looked like he was going to be a good coach because of how he looked and how he answered questions. But there is a vibe. There is a different vibe. And vibes don't always translate to wins, but there is a different vibe.
Yeah, there's something different going on. And there have been a lot of changes, and not just in the coaching ranks, obviously. So there is this different sort of era of Titan football now, or era of Titan football now moving forward. You just hope that it translates. I think, when they brought in John Robinson and Mike Vrabel subsequently the year after, I don't think it wasn't ushering in something new, I don't think, because they had already had a team that had just come off of a playoff win. So it was like you got in the saddle and you just kept it going, meaning Vrabel. And Vrabel was good at it. I'm not saying that, he didn't do what he needed to do. But I think this move, it's a total shift. And the guys they went out and got, I feel, and listen, what it ultimately is going to come down to is how quickly can I get these guys on the same page? And how quickly can I get these guys comfortable with the offense, and comfortable with this new defense, and comfortable with the culture that we're setting? Because there's a bunch of, even though the guys that were here last year, they're all new too. Because why? They're new to a system. They're new to what we're trying to build. So everybody in this building is new, and we're all trying to learn the same thing at one time. So how quickly can we get that? That is going to be first and foremost for this team. So time will tell. And I don't think we will know until they start playing games. Even in preseason, you're not going to truly know what this team could be. You will get an indication of somewhat. Guys looking better, guys coming back to camp look different. But until this thing is whittled down to, a 52, 53-man roster, you're not going to know what this football team and what this coaching staff is able to do with this team in this particular season.
One texter says, I would have picked Saleh for a before hair plugs model, like the before and after. Have you ever noticed when there is one of those billboards on my way home, and
The before after?
The before after. Clearly, these are two different people. Like there's just enough of a difference between the before guy and the after guy. Clearly, this is not the same person. They're a little bit tanner. Their face is a little bit, chiseled. Yes, thank you.
In this day and age of AI and all the things you could do to make it look good, you actually think they have a billboard with two different people on there?
I think they're two different people who look similar. I've always believed that. It's not the same person.
Like 20 years ago, whatever, I would have said that's probably a good bet.
Mm-hmm.
Now I would wonder why you would need to do that. Like your computer could make you look like just about anything, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, look,
Facetune exists. So
Do we need to have a day where we have a DVD picture with the three of us just have like big, like flowing, like lettuce?
Yeah, I think we should. Yeah. We should put out a social media pic with us having some flowing lettuce.
Yeah.
I need to dig up. It may be impossible to find. I need to dig up my middle school yearbook. Because I was on the basketball team, Great Neck Middle School, go Gulls, and I had a gigantic afro. And the only time anyone ever cheered for me was when we would play road games, and the other fans were like, "Put the white dude in with the afro."
You didn't want to go in, did you?
I didn't get much playing time. That's all I'm saying. I mean, we've got the wedding photos from our wedding on the wall in our living room.
But I'm talking about like an AI generated, like full on fake, current day. Like we could all go back in history. Yeah. Like I'm sure I can only speak for myself. Some regrettable moments in time with
of course.
with the hairstyle. Just probably
Absolutely.
it wasn't good, but it was there. But I'm talking about today with, you could just tell your computer, make a picture of so and so with a bunch of hair.
What
I'm
I
sure-
should do is I should put my son's hair on my head.
Ooh,
Okay,
that'd be cool.
My
I'm
son-
sure that can be done.
My
Yeah.
son has some luscious locks. He certainly did not get them from me. 615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on the Tennessee Titans, Robert Saleh, the coaching staff. It's all on the table. 615-737-1025. But coming up next, I have been watching, as we've already talked about on the show, I have been watching the Stanley Cup playoffs extremely closely. And the first round did not disappoint, as we mentioned the game between Montreal and Tampa Bay in Game 7 yesterday. I mean, the Minnesota-Colorado game was Game 1 of Round 2, and that game was awesome as well. But as I've been watching the Stanley Cup playoffs, I've had a thought dawn on me about the Nashville Predators, and I want to discuss that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. I've got to shout out this unnamed texter. And if this is you, you need to tell me your name so we can give you a proper shout out. But this texter photoshopped hairstyles on all of us. We're going to share it on our 1025 The Game social channels. But Willie looks like Bret Michaels. Derek looks like George Clinton. I look like Russell, what's the guy? Russell Simmons? Not Russell Simmons.
Richard Simmons.
Richard Simmons. Russell
yes.
Simmons is the rap.
The mogul.
Run
yes.
DMC.
Yes.
Yeah.
I look like Richard Simmons
I was thinking Bob Ross.
or Bob Ross, the
There's a
painter.
little Bob Ross in there.
It's a little Bob Rossi.
A redheaded Bob Ross.
I look,
character.
I look
Let's
so.
just put it this way.
I love it.
It's extreme.
I love it.
We'll share
But if you're
it.
going to do it, you might as well just go extreme.
I mean, my hair was not too far from that when I could grow my hair. It wasn't red, but it grew up. It did not grow down.
I'm just looking at why did he put a skull bandana?
Because he's got
on
the
with it?
hair metal. He's got the hair metal look. He looks like Bret Michaels.
It is right out of that playbook.
Oh my goodness. I
Willie
love it.
Willie looks like the front man of a Poison cover band on this
Yes,
thing.
I love it.
So
Oh,
we'll
man.
share that. But we had a good laugh about that during the break. All right. So as we've mentioned a couple of times, if you have not been watching the Stanley Cup playoffs, what are you doing? The Stanley Cup playoffs so far have been outstanding. There have been some series that were uncompetitive in the first round. That does happen in all playoffs. But overall, I think these playoffs have been fantastic, excellent theater. You're seeing new teams in the mix. Buffalo versus Montreal in the second round, Philadelphia in the second round, Anaheim in the second round. And as I'm watching these Stanley Cup playoffs, and I'm not watching every single game, I don't have time for that, but I'm watching as many games as I can. Here's something that I've been thinking about as it relates to the Nashville Predators. There appears to be a changing of the guard happening throughout the NHL, but I'm going to focus specifically on the Western Conference because that's, of course, where the Predators play. In the Western Conference, Anaheim defeated Edmonton in the first round. Anaheim starts its second round series against Vegas tonight, 8:30 p.m. Central puck drop. Although Utah did not defeat Vegas in the first round, Utah gave Vegas all it could handle. Wouldn't you say, Willie?
Absolutely.
So as I'm watching some of these other teams, I don't see Anaheim as a team that's going to take a step back. I see Anaheim as a team that's going to continue to build. Although Utah lost in the first round, I see Utah as a team that is going to continue to build. Although San Jose did not make the playoffs, they missed it by 4 points. I see the Sharks as a team that is going to continue to build. So I see, as I mentioned, a changing of the guard, so to speak, happening in the Western Conference. And my question is, as we await the GM hire by the Nashville Predators, where do the Predators fit in this changing of the guard? Because, Willie, we were talking about this off air. The first game between Minnesota and Colorado, by the way, the final score, Colorado 9, Minnesota 6. That is not a typo. Colorado was up 3-0. Minnesota tied the game at 4-4, even took the lead at 5-4. And ultimately, Colorado won 9-6. Again, 9-6.
And it was 7-6 with about 4 minutes to go, and Minnesota was pushing for the game-tying goal, and Cale Makar scored another one to make it 8-6, and then they got an empty net goal. And then they almost got the 10th. I don't know how many. I don't know the last time somebody got 10 in a playoff game, in a game that was fairly competitive, but that was a very exciting game.
And you know who scored in that game? Nick Blankenberg.
Good for Nick.
Nick
I saw that.
Blankenberg
And he had a
Colorado's fourth goal.
And is anybody bothered by this? Why all of a sudden is it Yakov Trenin and not what it's always been? Yakov Trenin? I feel bad.
Players do this all the time.
I
It's
know.
so annoying.
I feel bad if Yak never came to us. And all those years he was with the Preds and said, call me Trenin. Or if that's really how it is. I'm puzzled by that, but I just can't do Trenin.
No, it sounds too much like Funyun.
It doesn't sound like a real name, Trenyon.
No. But it is fun to watch the guys with Predator. There's a lot of them in that series.
Yes.
But
Of course,
Nick
John Hines
Blankenberg,
behind the bench for the Wild,
Yeah.
Brian Hartman for the Minnesota Wild, Yakov Trenyon,
Yeah.
Nick Blankenberg,
Michael
Scott
McCarron.
Wedgwood.
yeah,
Michael
Michael McCarron thrust higher in the lineup with Joel Eriksson out, at least until Game 3. So he's playing a big role there. And there's talk of Michael McCarron getting like $5 million a year.
Something like that, which is shocking to me. But my overall point is Colorado and Minnesota. Willie, you said this to me off air. Colorado and Minnesota might be the two best teams in the NHL,
I will
not just in the Western Conference.
I'll say it now. I think the winner of that series wins the whole thing. Those are the two best teams left. Now, I said that a few years ago after Winnipeg beat the Predators. And Winnipeg, honestly, I thought had nothing left in the next round when they played Vegas. I thought they were better than Vegas in 2018. But they just were so wiped out from that series. They just brought nothing to the table, and Vegas beat them. So that does happen. But I do think these are the two best teams in the league.
So you've got that. You've got Colorado and Minnesota. Willie Donick thinks they're the two best teams in the league. The Dallas Stars are going to have to answer some tough questions this offseason, but the Dallas Stars had 112 points during the regular season. I mentioned Utah being on the rise, Anaheim being on the rise. I would even lump in San Jose, although San Jose did not make the playoffs. They do look like a team that's getting there. So that leads me to my question again, Willie. As there seems to be a shift in the power of the Western Conference, as the Predators look to hire their next GM and plot a new course, I'm wondering where they fit in all of this. I'm worried the Predators could be left behind depending on what they decide to do.
I think it's a good question. I've always believed that you rarely, if ever, make a decision about your team based on everybody else around you. And let's look at the Titans. I do think there was a time where the Titans, I think we're facing the reality that the Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, Kevin Byard centric team, and you can throw in a few other names like, I don't know, Nico Autry, some other guys that were aging. I think it was time to face the music that they were not as good as they had been, but they looked at the division and said, I think we can still win this thing. And they ran it back, and it did burn them. In a vacuum, would they have made the same decisions? I'm not sure. But I do think you just have to look at your roster and say, what are the best things to do with this roster at this time? That's how I look at it. But it's a fair question to ask because you could have asked this question a couple years ago, but it is starting to happen now as far as results of some of these teams that have been out of the mix for years and years. Like you haven't heard about the Ducks from the time that Ryan Getzlaf and that group ended their window until now. So they've been behind the scenes for years and years. Same thing with Utah. Same thing with, finally Buffalo, Montreal. Some of these teams have gone through some hard times.
I saw today on The Athletic that 4 of the teams in the second round, not necessarily in this order, Anaheim, Philadelphia, Buffalo, and Montreal, were 4 of the 5 youngest teams in the NHL to start this season. And another thing I've noticed as I've been watching these games, especially the game between Minnesota and Colorado last night. Again, final score, Colorado 9, Minnesota 6. It's like they're playing a totally different game. Derek, you walked in today and you said to me, you watched game 1 of the second round series between Carolina and Philadelphia.
Yes.
And you said Carolina looks like they're playing a totally different sport than what the Predators played this year.
Yeah. And it just shows you, the difference, even a visual difference in a team like Carolina and a team like the Predators, where, you just look across, it's just, you watching them and it's just speed and they just move different and they pass the hockey, the puck different. And I know it's the playoffs, so everything is heightened. I get that. But if we're trying to, at least me, and I know there are fans out there because they want the Predators to get in the playoffs and be consistently in. And when you're trying to compare where this franchise is now compared to some of the teams that are still in, now listen, I know the teams that are in now are the best of the best. I get it. But you start to see how what the Predators don't have. Let's say that. Not how far back they are, just what they don't have. Because you watching how one team moves, and you think about your team and how they move, even on their best night. And there's a clear difference. And not to say they can't get there, but at this present time, it's going to take a lot to get where those teams are at now.
And Willie, as we bicker about what the Predators should do, and you know where I stand on this, y'all know where Willie stands on this. Whenever I bring up the idea of rebuilding, a lot of you are quick to throw at me, look at Buffalo until this season. Look at Detroit. Look at Chicago. And I think when you do that, you ignore examples of teams that have undergone these changes much more quickly and have done so successfully. I will point to a team that
I don't think Buffalo's done it successfully.
That's fair.
It shouldn't take 14 years. I'm not willing to
get it right.
I'm not defending Buffalo. I'm saying that
but
whenever
there's some teams that have done a very good job at doing. To me, to do it right, it shouldn't take 7 to 10 years.
Okay, so let's look at a team that you're watching right now, if you're watching the Stanley Cup playoffs, who I think has done this expertly. The Montreal Canadiens. The Montreal Canadiens made the Stanley Cup final in 2021. That was that weird shortened COVID season.
Right, and that should be pointed out. They weren't a very good team.
No, they were not. But all of the divisions were mixed up. All the Canadian teams were in the same division. That was the year the Predators were in the same division as the Hurricanes and the Panthers and the Lightning. It was a weird season.
It was a weird season. I would contend that they won a tournament much more than they made the full journey. I'm not sure they would have made the playoffs if that season was regular. They were not good, but you got to give it to them. They won it.
So the Canadiens went to the Stanley Cup final. They lost to the Lightning that year. And to your point, Willie, that Canadiens team wasn't a very good team. But how many teams would have been fooled by the fact that you went to the Stanley Cup final? Hey, we're close. We went to the Stanley Cup final. Now,
I will say this, though. The decision was made for them
by Shea Weber and Carey Price.
Right. They physically couldn't play.
Yes, that was the end of Shea Weber's career. He did not play after that Stanley Cup final.
Carey Price as well.
I think he played like 4 or 5 games the following season. He was done. So part of the decision, you're right, was made for them. The following 3 seasons after the Canadiens went to the Stanley Cup final in that weird year, they finished 32nd, 28th, and 28th. And in those 3 years, that helped them draft Juraj Slafkovsky, number 1 overall. They drafted Ivan Demidov, number 5 overall. They found Lane Hudson in the 2nd round, the same year they drafted Slafkovsky. So drafting, of course, is important. But the other thing, too, process is the Canadiens have made some really savvy trades. Predators fans, here's one that hits close to home. Justin Barron for Alexander Carrier. Alexander Carrier, I think, has been a really solid member of that top 4 defense. On the other hand, if it were up to me, Justin Barron wouldn't be on the Predators anymore because I'm not sure how good he is. But that was a savvy trade. They traded for Kirby Dach from Chicago. The Canadiens traded for Alex Newhook, I believe, from Colorado. They traded for Noah Dobson last offseason. They've made really savvy trades for players in that same age group. And now look at the Canadiens. Would it shock any of you if Montreal defeated Buffalo and went to the Eastern Conference Final?
Oh.
So I understand Predators fans, whenever I bring up the word rebuild, you immediately go to Buffalo or Detroit or San Jose or Chicago. But there are and I would argue, Willie, that the Canadiens are still rebuilding right now. The process is ongoing.
Yeah,
but
they're ahead of schedule.
Yes. So it can be done. And it's not just about dropping to the bottom of the standings and drafting number 1 overall. I do think that's an important part of it. But it's also making savvy trades, making smart signings. And I do think the Canadiens have done a really, I don't want to go as far as to say masterful, but it's a really impressive job that they've done.
No doubt. Full marks for them. And I continue to say, in terms of the Predators, they're doing it. They have had a measured way of doing this. I would contend that they are doing some portion of a rebuild that they've been working on for about 4 years now. So it's not a rebuild in the sense of we're going to tear it down, because my contention is most of the time that a team, quote, chooses to rebuild, like a full rebuild, it is because they don't have an alternative. I don't think anybody looks and says, we could go either way with this, but we're just going to go completely backwards. I don't think very many teams have chosen to do that. I think usually it's like, let's look at this and let's be real. We can't get out of this hole without getting worse first. So what the Predators are hoping for, to get back to what Derek was talking about, when you're watching these games and saying, how close are the Predators to being in a position where they could be in this mix and be competitive in this tournament? Like in the regular season, for example, they did pretty well against the Wild and the Avalanche. They beat them each twice. They all 4 of the games against the Wild were really close. But that's the regular season. It is different when it's all on the line for the playoffs. Everybody's gone to a different level. So I think the answer lies in, we've said this before, how much better and what are they going to get out of this deep prospect pool, which appears to lack the no-brainer, this is the guy that's going to lead in the future. Collectively, what are they going to get from this group? Whether it's those guys individually or like Montreal and some other teams we've pointed out, you package a few of these guys with some draft picks to get the extra guy that is a difference maker. I think there are ways to do it. And that's why I say don't get caught up into all these other teams are going to be good. There's always going to be good teams in the league, but how do you make how do you get your team to another level?
And tomorrow, by the way, is an important day. It's the NHL draft lottery.
Are you feeling lucky?
Tomorrow at 6 p.m.
I've thought about this. What am I going to do? Like, what are we going to do to try the vibe? I don't know.
Y'all want to wear like Predator socks or
I don't know,
something?
I got to think about something. Everything I've done before has not worked.
Yeah, so
they
we
have
gotta think of
never.
something.
They've
Predators
never won the lottery.
The Predators had much better odds last year when they finished near the bottom of the league. This year, they have a 3.5% chance of receiving the number 1 overall pick. There's 1,000 possible number combinations. The Predators own 35 of those 1,000 possible combinations. So they have a 3.5% chance of receiving the number 1 pick. Here's the kicker. Last year, the New York Islanders also had a 3.5% chance of landing the number 1 pick, and they did.
Wow.
Let's all wear one sock during the show.
One sock?
Yeah, each one of us, one sock.
Okay. If you guys have ideas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Remind me of that
ideas.
tomorrow. I
Yeah.
will do that.
I also do want
You
to.
don't want me to take off the dirty sock in the middle of the studio. I think you want me to show up with one sock. That's a better way to do it.
A clean one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, it was Neil and Franklin who created the
Thank you.
The
Neil.
hair.
The
for
extreme
us.
picture of the
Thank
hair?
you, Neil. Yes.
Okay, so let's quickly go through it.
Yes.
This is off the top of my head. I haven't looked this up. Adam, you can add any that I'm missing.
Okay.
But here's the Predators' history with the lotteries, as I recall. The very first year, the expansion draft, they had a chance for the first pick.
Mhm.
It was I think a coin flip between 2 teams. It was either first or second, and they got second, which is, not the end of the world, but
Mhm.
they could have had the first pick.
You could have had Vinny LeCavalier
Yes.
instead of David Legwand.
Right. Hey, I love Leggy. He was good. He wasn't quite as good as LeCavalier, but you know what? LeCavalier was not, it's not going to be mistaken for Connor McDavid, but he was a really good player.
Yes.
That was one. There was the year of the lockout where everybody had the same chance to get Sidney Crosby. 32 teams, all the same odds. Obviously, they didn't win that one. There was the bubble where they were thrown in the mix with
all of the teams that did not make the bubble playoffs and the teams that lost in the qualifying round.
So that is a total of how many teams?
Oh, man.
16, maybe?
I don't remember off the top of my
I
head.
think it would be around 16. They all had the same chance.
Yes.
That was
Alexei Lafreniere from the New York Rangers.
Obviously, they didn't win that one.
Yeah.
Then there was last year.
Yes.
I'm trying to think if there were any other. I feel like there might have
I
been
feel like
one or
you've got
two
them
others
covered.
in there, but they have just never gotten their name called.
So the
in
Predators
This
have a
is the year.
3.5% chance.
This is the year.
And
Well,
trust me,
there's also a second one for the second pick, right?
Yes.
There's 2 chances to get. There's one chance to get the first, one separate one for the second pick.
yes.
So they could move up to 2, which would be huge too.
That's well, Utah moved up significantly
Yes.
last year, if I recall correctly.
Right. So there were 2 big winners in that,
I'm just going to
which
say
moved the
this.
Predators from 3 to 5.
You're going to want to hear the show on Wednesday if the Predators win the draft lottery.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Because I'm going to be a pig and you know what, if the Predators have the number 1 overall pick.
Right.
for a
Obviously
change.
that would affect all the decisions you make, probably, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be a seismic change.
Come on, number 1 pick.
So rub your lucky rabbit's foot, stick a horseshoe up your butt. I don't know. Whatever you do.
Anybody suggest anything? I am open to
Yes.
suggestion. Like,
Yes.
what do we do?
615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on the Predators and the Stanley Cup playoffs. As I've been watching, I've just been noticing all of these young teams playing well. They've got young stars. Anaheim has multiple young stars. Leo Carlson, Cutter Gauthier, Jackson Lacombe. Utah has Dylan Gunther and Logan Cooley. I'm noticing these teams in the Western Conference with these young stars that look to, the teams and the players look to be on the rise. And I'm just wondering, where do Predators fit in all of this? 615-737-1025. Coming up next, we'll shift back into the Titans and discuss the question we've sort of been alluding to throughout the show about Cam Ward. 615-737-1025. Speaking of the Predators, a reminder that tomorrow, BetMGM Sports Lounge, that's at Bridgestone Arena, the Predators are hosting their official 2026 NHL Draft Lottery Watch Party. Admission is free. There are going to be interactive games and contests. Ryan Johansson's going to be there. Nash is going to be there. The Predators Energy team is going to be there. Also, Chase McCabe and Max Hers will be there. Live from the event starting at 6 o'clock. Doors open at 5. Party starts at 5:30. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. That was Brian Dable talking about Cam Ward over the weekend. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. And we've been sort of alluding to this conversation throughout the day. We talked about it with Gentry Estes in the first hour. We talked about it with Turron Davenport in the second hour. The question, how will Cam Ward handle another offensive scheme change? Because, Willie, as you've laid out, we've seen so many quarterbacks fail because of the upheaval in the coaching staffs, plus the fact that when those coaching staffs change, they often bring in new offensive systems. So a lot is riding on Cam Ward. That doesn't need to be said. But I am wondering how he will handle this change and how Brian Dable can help get the best out of him in year 2.
It's just something that's been talked about so many years. There we go.
Yeah,
there we go.
So it's been talked about so many years in the history of the NFL. It's a classic trap. We talked about it before they even drafted Cam Ward. It's all of the pitfalls that can happen to a guy specifically who is picked either first or in the top 2 or 3, where you're coming in to a situation that has been obviously bad enough for the team to finish at the bottom. And so often it leads to a lot of changes in coaching and philosophies, and we're not doing it well, so we got to change something. And it's never easy for a quarterback to have to go. How many times have you heard in your life, so-and-so, the quarterback, he's had to learn 3 different systems in 4 different years, or 4 different coordinators in 3 years, all of these things. So I am curious on this particular one, because Daboll seems to have a very good track record, a very good reputation as a teacher, as an offensive mind. I'm optimistic, but I do ask myself, will there be more growing pains than we want to admit? Because Cam Ward's got to learn a whole new offense.
Yeah, I mean, whatever he learned last year has to be, from a playbook standpoint, is thrown out the window. Now, the mechanics are transferable. What he learned, footwork, they may try to clean up some things, but I think from that standpoint, I think he may be, on track. Now, we're going to see what happens, once he's out there and really throwing because of the shoulder surgery. But I think from a footwork standpoint, he didn't. It's not like he's going to have to take a step back just because there's a new offense out there. I think he will stay on task with that. But learning a new offense, it does sort of put you back somewhat, depending on your learning curve. And it seemed like he picked up on the offense they were running last year very quickly, and that's why they decided that they were going to play him right away, because he seemed to be picking up everything the way they wanted him to. And I think it would be no different here. Is he's going to pick up on the offense. It may not look polished when they first go out there, but I think the more time they have together, they're going to get better. And don't expect when the season starts for everything to be hitting on all cylinders, because it's not. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's not. It's going to take a minute for the offense to sort of get going, because everybody's learning something new, and there's always nuances within, different offenses depending on who's running it. So I'm not too much worried about that, but I know there will be a learning curve. In what Cam, I know they're going to continue to, just give him as much as he can just, take, or, keep within his, his arsenal of plays that he's going to ultimately have to learn. And then from that, what you do is you take it down to what does he like to do best within his offense.
And it's not just Cam Ward. So
no, it's not. It's the whole team.
I think that
offense
makes
anyway.
it, ultimately all of that will make it challenging for Cam Ward. I would like to believe some of the stuff, the optimism that you heard Brian Dable talking about there, will apply to Cam Ward, that he's special. He's going to learn quicker than a lot of quarterbacks before him. But adding on top of learning a new system, you've got a first-year wide receiver who they want to become the man overall. There's going to be a growing pains there. Even Io Manor and DK, who had promising rookie years, to throw Gunnar Helm in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now they got to learn a new offense. Where do they fit in this? Will there be growing pains there? I think it's not unrealistic to say one or two of them could take a step back, a sophomore slump, or it just doesn't fit the same way in a different offense. There's a lot of things that could make it very tough, even though in a perfect world, you're like, oh, they got Daboll now. Cam Ward's in his second year. Oh, they got him a receiver. Like all these things you can get excited about. But the reality is they've got some major, major challenges to really look good. And it may not all happen early. That's why I'm still thinking they're at least a year away. But hopefully through the tough times, they will continue to build that nucleus that you're going to need.
I think this time of year is going to be critical for this offense. And what I mean by that, I mean the time they spend away from the building, because they can only spend so much time over there doing stuff on the field and in the classroom, especially this time of year. It's going to be what they do off the field by themselves. Is Cam getting together all the wide receivers, which I know he will do, and how, because that's going to expedite sort of this learning curve. It's not just, okay, we're going to put in the hours, and it's a lot of hours, but not enough. We're going to put in the hours when we're at the building. Okay, cool. All right. But what are you going to do when we're out the building? Because we have more time out the building than we have in the building. So are you going to make sure as a quarterback that you get all of these guys together, the receivers and the running backs, to make sure we are all learning this at a pace to when we hit the field, we can be more advanced rather than, waiting until the next time we meet up as a group.
I heard Chase Daniel on NFL Live gushing about the Tennessee Titans. He says Brian Daboll is going to completely transform the Titans offense.
Dangerous to say.
It is,
man.
This is the time for hyperbole. And I know that Daboll's experience with Josh Allen is front of mind for a lot of people, because Daboll gets a lot of credit for helping turn Josh Allen into Josh Allen. That's how we got the New York Giants coaching job in the first place. So again,
and there were plenty of people that were not sure what Josh Allen was going to look like when he got there, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy to see what Daboll did with Josh Allen and hope that he can do the same for Cam Ward. I think we would all agree that Josh Allen is a special player. I'm not sure Cam Ward is on that level. We'll see, of course. But again, this goes back to the earlier conversation we were having about the amount of optimism that is reasonable to have about the coaching staff. I'm sure a lot of you feel better about Cam Ward working with Brian Daboll instead of Nick Holtz and God, who was the quarterback's coach who called the plays? I can't even remember his name. Oh, Bo Hardegree.
Yeah.
Bo Hardegree. Like, I'm sure you feel a lot better with Brian Daboll working with Cam Ward than Bo Hardegree and Nick Holtz.
I feel good. This is the reason why, because it's sort of some of what you just said about the Josh Allen. I think when you're talking about play, I think he has the ability to reach that level.
Cam does?
Yeah. Because we didn't think Josh Allen was Josh Allen when he got in the NFL. Remember, for 2 years, this dude was bad. He wasn't making the decisions that were going to win football games. And I know plenty of times that's what separated it for me. Like, when it gets in those moments, he always does something that ends up where the other team has the ball because of what he does with it. When Daboll got there, and subsequently after that, he started getting better with the football. He started being that elite quarterback that they thought they were getting when they drafted him in the first round. So I'm not going to say Cam Ward can't be Josh Allen, because I know what Josh Allen was before he was Josh Allen that he is, the MVP guy. He was a guy that was prone to a lot of mistakes, and they cleaned it all up. He got better, and now he's considered an elite quarterback. I think that can happen with Cam Ward as well. So it just depends on, how this process, and it seems like Daboll, they're good with it because they built a relationship before he got here in the draft process, and they're continuing to build on it now. They're getting him weapons, and they're doing the things necessary that is going to help him take that next step. Now, the unfortunate part about it is he got injured at the end of the season, and he has to work through the rehab of getting his shoulder right. And I just hope he comes back fully 100%.
See, I wasn't even thinking about that, but you're right that he's also trying to come back from that, which on paper, it's just another challenge he's got to overcome. So I'm trying to keep this in mind. I will be the person, I promise you, in September and October, if it's not going super smooth, if they're not the talk of the league, like, oh, look at what Daboll's done, coach of the year, he's going to be a head coach next year. If that's not all happening, I'm just going to remind everybody, look at what they're dealing with. First year, number one receiver, second year quarterback, new offensive system, a couple of second year receivers on the other side, second year tight end, significant injury that the guy's coming, that the quarterback's overcoming, not a loaded roster. Like, all of these things point to there's going to be some struggles there. So temper expectations. I'm going to be that guy.
Coach Willie.
Coach Willie will be. Coach Willie's got no chance because everybody is going to say, "Where is it, man? We hired this guy. He's a bum." Oh, it's the overreaction. That's how the NFL works.
Wet blanket Willie, everybody.
Wet blanket Willie.
Wet blanket Willie. 615-737-1025. I can, of course. We'll take your thoughts on Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans. You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Just laughing at Willie. Wet blanket.
You caught
Willie.
something?
No. Wet blanket Willie. Oh my goodness.
Wet blanket Willie. Rolls off the tongue. 615-737-1025. We'll wrap up the show. Coming up next, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025. The Game.
Okay, you've heard me say it a bunch of times with Loan Pronto. The credit card interest rates are way up there. We know stuff's costing more. Gas is costing more. We got all that stuff. So if you're looking around and looking for financial solutions to get yourself on better ground, remember our friends at Loan Pronto and their rapid equity loan. They've helped so many people with that system. You can pay off credit cards. You can pay off your existing HELOC, a car loan, and get that debt down to zero. Get money for a home improvement project if that's what you're interested in. But you've got to call Loan Pronto to use the money out of your home's equity to your advantage. Here's how you do it. Just call 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com and ask the questions. Ask them, hey, can I find out more about the Rapid Equity Loan Program? Because they've helped so many people. They've got 2,800 five-star Google reviews behind it. So again, loanpronto.com or 615-499-5780 and see how much money you can get and talk about what you can do with that money to get yourself in a better spot. Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 166-1781, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025 The Game. Wet Blanket Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. By the way, one texter says, Wet Blanket Willie. Sounds like the name you give a kid who wet the bed but grew up to be a Western outlaw like Jesse James. That's Wet Blanket Willie, the toughest buckaroo in the West.
Buckaroo. Good word.
Why do they call you Wet Willie?
You don't want to know.
That's like the trope that you always see, the enormous like bouncer or bodyguard that's called tiny.
Tiny. Yes.
Oh boy.
Wasn't Debo from Friday tiny? Wasn't his name Tiny Liston?
Tiny Liston.
Tiny Lister? Tiny Liston?
I think it was Liston, not Lister. Liston, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
But a big guy like that shouldn't be named Tiny. No. Never.
Mike says, D-Mace, Wet Blanket, and Vingan. Print the T-shirts. I think it would be Wet Blanket, Vingan, D-Mace, Vingan, and Wet Blanket. Oh,
WBW.
Man. Yes, that would change the name of the show. The Commodore Hour coming up at the top of the hour. Tomorrow, Trevor Maddich will join the program. A shortened program for us tomorrow because of Vanderbilt baseball. But tonight, in addition to Stanley Cup playoff action, we've got second round action in the NBA playoffs. Always a good time to watch the Philadelphia 76ers play the New York Knicks. It doesn't matter the era.
Now, did you hear Joel Embiid and what he said about
I did not hear
the Sixers fans?
What he said.
And this is not new in sports, right? Especially, I feel like it's become a bigger thing as time has gone on, and that is the visiting fans infiltrating the road building.
Yeah.
Yes. So he said there have been some games where I forget exactly the words he used, but he said it felt like Madison Square Garden South. You know, they've had too many. He implored the 76ers fans to hold on to your tickets. Don't sell your tickets. Like put him on the list now of teams that have done this, right? But the funny part is he said, if you need money, I got you. So you know the smart aleck Philadelphia fans, you know them. They're probably going to say, "Hey, Joel,
I need about 20 tickets."
He's getting Venmo requests right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Oh man, yeah. Then you got the Timberwolves and the Spurs tonight, which is going to be a good one, I think. Minnesota upset Denver in the playoffs in the first round.
That was incredible. By
Rudy
the way.
Gobert played excellent. At least the last game, he played excellent.
And his
Jokic.
reward for being so good,
he has to play
Victor
against
Wembanyama. Congratulations, buddy.
I'm trying to remember all the guys that Minnesota was missing in that clinching game.
They were
it was unreal.
Their second league.
They were missing Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
The guy I
they were
can't
missing
remember
the other guard.
how to pronounce his name, but he averaged like 20 points a game.
Gosh,
he's got
Is it the Connecticut dude? No.
Well, didn't Dante DiVincenzo get hurt?
He's hurt.
Yeah,
too.
he's hurt. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, he's hurt.
He went to Villanova.
Villanova, not UConn.
There was one more guy that all of a sudden showed up, couldn't play, and they still guys. I was watching the stretch run. There was guys I've never heard of. The crowd's going crazy, and they're beating the Nuggets, who have won the title not too far ago.
Well, the Nuggets was missing their power forward. What's I forget the kid's name. He's not a kid, a grown man.
Aaron Murray?
Yeah, not Aaron Murray. He was playing. He didn't play well. Murray didn't play well the whole season.
Jamal Murray. Yeah.
Jamal Murray.
Yeah, no, he
didn't play well.
That was one of the keys
series.
is they did a great job on him defensively. They made it very tough on Murray.
Aaron Murray's a football player.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah.
Aaron Gordon is what
Aaron Gordon. Yeah, he got hurt.
Aaron Murray played quarterback at Georgia.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Aaron
everyone.
Gordon was hurt,
Quite a while ago too.
Sorry, everyone.
Now I don't feel so bad because I do that sometimes. I've done that in hockey broadcasts. I brought
And
up
then
a
you got my Lakers and the Thunder.
Lakers, Thunder. Who do you like in that one?
Who you think I like?
I know
Lakers
you
and
like,
4.
but I'm saying
Lakers and
you think there's a chance?
Yeah, I think there's a chance.
Let me ask you this.
There's always a chance.
Let me ask you
Bron's
as
on
a
the
Lakers.
court.
Let me ask you as a Lakers fan.
Yes.
Are you enjoying the Luke Kennard experience?
Who wouldn't?
I mean, he's a
Who
Dookie.
It's a fun experience.
But when you come to the Lakers, you become more than
He
that.
was a member of the Memphis Grizzlies, so
Yeah, you become more than that. You elevate your game
when
you
he's
become a
feeling
Laker.
it, he just throws up the most ridiculous shots, and they fall right in.
Well, it's helping the Lakers right now, so they got a tough task against the Thunder, who are they're the number one overall seed, right? I think they are
Yes.
over the Pistons, because I know the Pistons are the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, but I think the Thunder are the number one seed overall. But that's a juggernaut in itself with Shea Gilgis.
Shea Gilgis Alexander. It's a mouthful.
SGA.
It's a mouthful.
Just say SGA.
But you can't help but be romantic about watching the Sixers and the Knicks playing at Madison Square Garden.
Listen, if you are a basketball fan, there's some matchups, especially in the playoffs, whether it's the Lakers and the Celtics, or Philly and the Knicks, or Detroit and Chicago, or Boston and Detroit.
Yeah,
those
nostalgic.
those matchups are nostalgic, man. So you're gonna get one when the Knicks and 76ers play.
And the Oregon at MSG, it's just a great theater.
Mhm,
Like there's just when.
Have you ever been to a game there, Adam?
A basketball
I know
game?
you've been to a hockey game there, right?
I mean, I've covered
of course.
many.
It's one of my
I've covered
favorite
many
places.
hockey games. I've
Okay,
attended
yeah.
multiple basketball games
Okay.
as well as a fan.
I have never seen a Knicks game
Mhm.
at MSG, but I would say I went to MSG as a kid
Mhm.
a lot, but it was usually for the circus or something like that. You know, I went to a St. John Syracuse game, which was a great game
Mhm.
back in the day too. But just calling the games Predators Rangers,
Mhm.
it's just such a great. It just reeks. Of course, played in Madison Square Garden for what, Adam?
The NIT?
NIT championship,
Yeah,
baby.
You took the train the
Yes.
wrong way, remember?
I did.
He didn't want to remember that part.
Missed the pregame meal. Had to run a lot of stairs the next fall, but cut the nets down at MSG.
But y'all won.
We did, but it's just a great venue. So Knicks Sixers
Mhm.
at MSG with the
Oh,
Oregon going,
man.
can't beat that. Just like when Montreal is playing at home, there is no crowd that is better at rising and falling with the flow of the game than the Montreal crowd. It is awesome. So those are worth watching just for that, even if you're not a huge fan of any of the teams.
That'll do it for us today. We will be back tomorrow at 3:00. Trevor Maddich will join us for his weekly segment. And that's all I know so far because I haven't planned tomorrow's show. But we know Trevor will be on it, and you'll be there as well, starting at 3:00.
Be loved, love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful Monday. I love you. The team loves you. You hear that music. Don't you forget about us, because we will not forget about you. We will be back on the air at 3 p.m. tomorrow, because we be talking and you be listening. I love you. Peace.